Hello and welcome to the channel. We are the Hologrumps. I'm Liam.
And I'm Colm.
And we're here today to talk to you about Star Trek, the original series, episode 7 of season 1. What are little girls made of? But before we start, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you like what you see here for future content. So this episode was written by Robert Bloch and directed by James Goldstone. The synopsis reads, the crew of the Enterprise arrive at the planet EXO-III with some trepidation and great anticipation. They are there to see if they can locate the renowned scientist, Dr. Roger Korby. The man hasn't been heard of for 5 years, and the general belief is that he is dead. For nurse Kirk Chapel, however, a reunion with Korby will be a reunion with her fiancé. They find Korby alive, but when Kirk and Chapel beam down to the planet, they find a man obsessed who is using alien technology to reproduce the humans around him in the form of androids.
Oh!
It's okay, Colin. It's okay. It's not real.
It's not the future yet. It's okay. Guys, a little bit of trivia for you that don't know. This is the only original series episode to prominently feature Nurse Kirk Chapel, who was played by Majel Barrett. It also features Ted Cassidy as Lurch. You know, Lurch from the Addams Family, yeah. He plays Rook in this. Barrett would later play, in Star Trek The Next Generation, the character Lwaxana Troi, whose valet, Mr. Homm, was played by Carel Struycken, who also played Lurch at a later date. So I think they were making a little pun here by having her come back and having a Lurch follow her around, I guess.
So, Colin, what did you think of this episode?
Okay, so I watched this episode about 3 months ago before we had to do this review. So everything in this episode I already knew about it. But what I will say is this. It is a good episode, but it's very difficult to watch it a second time because it's like watching a thriller a second time. When you know the twists and you know the turns, you just start seeing all the flaws. And I think this is actually one of the stronger episodes we've seen so far. As a script, it was a bit funny in the execution, but it would actually be a really good start for someone wanting to watch Star Trek.
Yeah, because of course there are a lot of goofs in it. And again, I'd seen this episode before and knew what the twist was. So I was kind of sitting there looking at the other things that were going on in the background. Such as, when we open up the episode, Roger Korby calls the Enterprise, but it sounds like he's coming from down a well. So he's like, Enterprise, come in, Enterprise. This is Roger Korby. So, Colin, you particularly loved the people standing around in the background on the bridge, didn't you?
Yeah, these guys standing around in the background after the title screen. There's one guy, he's just standing there in his little blue jumpsuit with his mouth open going, "Who's Captain Kirk?" While this lady standing beside him is smiling wildly going, "I'm on TV! I'm on TV!"
It's like two sci-fi fans have just wandered onto the set of the Enterprise mid-filming and they're like, well, this is great.
They beat up some extras and took their costumes.
But things were looking up when they beamed down onto the planet because we got some blue skies for a change.
Smiling at us.
Woo! But unfortunately, the set descended into a purple hue of chaos the moment they went indoors. Like every alien planet is just purple. Either purple sky or purple stone.
It's unfortunate. Is this the first instance of actual red shirts? I'm racking my brain trying to think. I think this is the first real instance of red shirts. People who were born to die.
We haven't said it in any of our reviews yet, so I think it is. We definitely would have brought up the red shirts.
Because it's not as if they get a lot of screen time. You know, I'm pretty sure they have like 1, maybe 2 lines. It is funny though that the guy, Matthews is it? He seems like he knows he's going to get killed. Like, it seems to me like the director said to him, okay, your character is going to get assaulted by a 6'10" monster with shoulders that are as tall as you are. Also, we're going to throw you down a bottomless pit, so get your best scream ready. I do think, however, that the monster is terrifying. Like, if I saw a man this tall and this wide, running around at this speed, I'd be terrified. I wouldn't want that coming near me. I would have jumped down that hole to get away from him. And in fact, that's what I think Matthews did. I do, however, get the feeling that Gene Roddenberry actually added the Andrea character. Because she's just like, oh, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'm a robot. Oh, Gene, getting your kiss in there.
Do you think it was William Shatner that suggests all these kiss scenes, or do you think it's actually just Gene Roddenberry that imagines himself in Captain Kirk?
Here's my theory. Kirk has this idea that he can melt any woman's heart. It doesn't matter if she's a machine. If I kiss her, she'll feel it. Or at least maybe that's Shatner's thought. How would you break the logic circuits of a machine? With a kiss.
So what did you think of Kirk being turned into an android?
To be honest, I don't understand why we think Korby's such a great scientist if anyone could spin this wheel of fortune and just make an android.
Yeah, well, basically Rook did it.
Essentially. Also, the transition scene was lame because Kirk was fully clothed and conscious, and then suddenly he's lying on a slab, and it just seemed weird.
Maybe he was seduced by Andrea. Yeah, got more than he bargained for. Maybe they cut that scene of Kirk getting seduced, and then when he's lying on the bed, she actually just straps that bar over his waist.
He does seem kind of sedated as well, though, because he's not going, let me out.
He's looking around, but not really doing anything. Until he says, mind your own business, Mr. Spock. I'm sick of your half-breed interference.
Yeah, sure.
Should be iconic. Kirk cancelling himself.
The line that they say is like, which is your captain? Liam, can you tell me which one is the captain?
Probably the one that's spewing up his guts at the side of the table.
Yeah, he's just been spun around at like 3 Gs.
I wish in Star Trek Picard they would have had that spinning table there in Soon's lab.
Would you really want to see naked Stewart?
Yeah, we've seen it before. So right after Kirk becomes an android, we get our dining room scene, and we see our pirate set has reappeared, all the old wooden furniture. But I did notice that when Kirk and Kirk Chapel were having their conversation, she cuts him off and then says, please go ahead and eat. But it just sounded completely out of it, like it was just added in. She sounded like the Elcar's computer.
I didn't actually notice it.
Yeah, if you go back and rewatch it, they're just eating their dinner, and then she goes, please go ahead and eat.
I find it weird that the two Kirks, when they sit down beside each other, are smiling at each other. Oh, look, a handsome devil. Oh, that handsome devil. It's like Star Trek 6, where it's Kirk talking to Kirk.
You know, Kirk likes Kirk. He knows how beautiful he is.
Yeah, I'd kiss that.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put that in. So, the other thing I noticed, wouldn't the cloning machine be a very useful application for humane information extraction for prisoners? They wouldn't have to torture them. They could just download their consciousness into this android body, and all of a sudden they have all of their knowledge.
Yeah, but obviously you'd be creating a life, and then you'd be creating a life that's subservient to you, that has to answer your questions. And that's a whole other thing as well.
But they didn't have any android rights thingies back then.
Just because you don't have rights for things doesn't mean you can do it. Like,
you can build an entire race of androids to
well,
work
there's
on
no
the
law
Utopia
against
Planitia.
it.
Yeah, no law against it. That's how all of the events of Star Trek Picard happened.
Well, nobody wrote a rule book on it, so I'm going to do it.
Where was Zat Vosh in all this? No little Romulans snooping around in the caves of EXO-III?
That was a bit condescending, Liam. What do you mean, little Romulans?
With their pointy ears.
With their pointy ears.
Sorry.
So Kirk escapes. He grabs Korby, chokes him. I've never seen something like this where all the bad guys, his goons, are standing around and he manages to escape by going, don't come any closer. I'll choke him.
I've got this android in a chokehold.
I've got rope.
String. It's actually string.
Like string, yeah. Rook could easily grab Kirk before he could choke him to death. He had him cornered. What was he going to do?
Snap his neck.
Oh, be grim.
Yeah.
So this is where we get Kirk's escape scene. And we get to see the infamous dick prop.
I wrote a note. It's Kirk holds the dick. The prop team can be heard laughing in the background.
Joke's on you, Shatner.
Yeah, just hold it at the bottom.
Do you think he knew what it was? Do you think he knew what he was holding?
And he was holding it up for laughs. No.
Do you think he actually called out for Nurse Chapel in that scene, or it was just another line that was tagged on? Because when you watch it, there's no indication in the video that he's just called out to Nurse Chapel.
I don't know. And to be honest, I was like, why the hell would you do that? Why wouldn't you just stay there? It's not in your best interest to fight this giant man with a foam dildo. Like, what did he think was going to happen?
It feels like it was just tagged on because they were like, oh, there was something lost in editing there. How did Rook find him? We'll just say Kirk called out for, Christine, is that you?
So, of course, when Android Kirk gets back to the ship, he accidentally lets slip with that line that biological Kirk put into him about Spock keeping his opinions to himself because he's a half-breed. Spock instantly figures it out because Kirk's not a racist. So, yeah. Fun fact, if you didn't know, Kirk's walk to the turbo lift from his quarters is actually stock footage from the man trap. He doesn't actually have the command packet he had retrieved from his safe a moment before. And you can tell by the quality of the footage as well, it's actually slightly worse.
So, Colin, what did you think of the Kirk seduction scene for the android? Andrea the android.
Kirk is one smooth devil if he can melt the heart of a robot. It was actually, to be fair, I say this a lot now. It was quite uncomfortable to watch because he really goes for that kiss and you can see the marks on her arms.
Yeah, there are all these finger pulling marks along her. Oh, no, I felt a bit uncomfortable with that, I have to say. I feel like this character was just written in for some man service.
Yeah, I think the less said the better, to be honest.
And I know you loved this scene. You said it to me. Rook and Kirk downstaging each other for their entire conversation.
Right, we've got a few screenshots here we're going to show you. And if we show you them in order, it should look quite funny. So the scene starts off with Kirk walking downstage to talk about humanity. Then when Rook gets his lines, he moves downstage in front of Kirk to say his lines. Also, Kirk doesn't look too impressed when he does this. And then they both finish standing side by side, bodies turned out facing the audience. If you put them in a building, they would have been talking to the wall.
Well, maybe it's the imagery that Kirk's trying to use him as a marionette. He's puppeting him, pulling the strings from behind him, so that he's not actually talking directly to him. He's manipulating him. He wants Rook to go after Korby in the most anticlimactic showdown that's ever been filmed in the history of television. But Kirk manipulates Rook into going after Korby, saying that the human existence is illogical and is going to destroy.
He basically reminds Rook that Rook hates organic life. I remember!
Eureka!
I'll kill you all! I killed all the people here.
I don't know why his death is so funny.
Because it's instantaneous. He gets Control-Alt-Deleted. The task manager appears and he's just womped out of existence.
It's not even like he has a stance on like, I'm gonna kill you. He's just standing there.
he hunches and then he's dead. Yeah,
that's how Korby knew he was serious. He hunched.
And I think the only reason he was hunching is so that he could fit all his body in shot to show he'd been disintegrated.
Yeah, that's a good point. That probably is it.
I have my moral for this episode if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah.
So, the moral of this story, it'd be okay to base an entire story arc off of one episode if the story arc was actually good.
So, essentially, you're getting at Star Trek Picard.
Was I that obvious?
Was it that obvious? And the android story. Do you think they even saw this episode?
Maybe they didn't see the episode. Maybe they just dug up a load of scripts.
I feel like they just retold this episode unintentionally.
Or parts of it, at least.
If you rewatch this episode, you realize there was never any point of Star Trek Picard. They just kind of ignore the fact that this has already been dealt with in Star Trek.
We have had repetitive episodes throughout Star Trek, but
Yeah, but
I've
an
never,
entire
I've never,
series
I've never,
arc.
I've never seen it lean so heavily on one idea or narrative for an arc. That's why Star Trek works as an episodic, because you can literally just say, "Well, that was the last episode. Let's brush that off. We're not space salamanders anymore." Ho, wasn't that scary?
Do you think Picard will have a breakdown like this? Do you think
No.
he'll suddenly realize? No. Doji, I love.
I'm Jean-Luc Picard.
I find it an interesting predicament from this episode that androids could ever exist in the Star Trek universe. Because in the original series, androids are always done in by logic. It's, you know, they did that in one of the Harry Mudd episodes. It's like, everything I say is a lie. And then it says to the android, I am telling you a lie.
That is dealing with 1960s concepts of computers and robotics.
Yeah.
Because computers, for the most part, will just ignore something that's a paradox. They just ignore it. They refuse to acknowledge it. If someone says to them, everything I say is a lie, that was a lie, they'll just say, okay, don't care. Just imagine, okay, if in every single episode of Next Generation, when they want to stop Commander Data, they just say that to him. Okay, so we're going to close it out there. Guys, if you like what you see, if you enjoy what you saw, be sure to like and subscribe. And maybe comment below if you're looking forward to more episodes, or if you saw the episode yourself and you want to see more. We'll be doing this every week. So, from the Hologrumps, I've been Colum.
And I've been Liam.
And remember, existence is futile.